There we go. Okay, I'm going to scooch so I can hold the books. Oh, there are so many. Okay, let's go. Welcome or welcome back to the channel. My name is Sarah. It's been a few weeks. I have quite a few things sitting here. So we're going to try to do this a little rapidly. Yeah? Okay. Let's jump into it. So, my journal is also out of order. I'm going to preface this with saying the last few weeks I hyperfixate on things and tasks, right? It's just part of who I am. And my current hyperfixation is I want to read my books and clear my shelves out of things I don't want. And I'm also trying very hard to clear my NetGalley shelf, which is embarrassingly large. Shelves, I guess, if you count pages. So that's been my fixation, which means I have been reading. I have also, and I highly recommend everyone do this, I have been cutting out doom scrolling. Like, I try extremely hard not to doom scroll. The only time I get on Instagram, because while Instagram is my primary social media, I check it once a day. And then the occasional, every couple of days, I'll check my private account for the stuff that my husband sends me, and I watch his stuff, and then I switch back to my book account. And all of my posts are scheduled through Canva, so I don't doom scroll. I try very, very hard not to doom scroll, which leaves me with a lot of time. Even playing video games. I have a lot of time to read. So, I have been getting it done. So we're going to start with these three in front of me, because these are, I think, yes, these are the three from last month that I want to talk about that I read. So these three I read after my last Friday reads. So start at the top, because I think I have the least to say about this, is How to Fake It in Society. This is by KJ Charles. Now, I've been reading KJ Charles for years and years and years. This is, I think, one of her first, if not her first, traditionally published book, but she's been doing indie books for years. And I've been reading those. They're mostly queer historical fiction, but I think last year I read one of their historical mysteries, and I talked about it on the channel, possibly. I think it was called Death in the Spires. I really enjoyed it. So KJ Charles is a familiar writer to me. I really enjoy their work. Now, this one I liked. I didn't absolutely adore. I think we could have shaved like 50 pages off of this. It just felt a little too long in the middle for me. But this is about a young man named Titus, and he is a colorist, which means he makes colors and paints for artists. And one day he goes to take paint to this little old lady who's like grossly rich and kind of, what's the word I want? I'm losing it. Starts with an A. She's very snide and snipey and like that sort of thing. She's on her deathbed. She had a tumble down the stairs. She says her nephew pushed her. He's a wretched being, and she refuses to let him inherit her money. So she says, Titus, marry me, and that way you can do what you want with the money, but my nephew won't get it. And so that's what he does. He is a very sweet, meek man, and he does this for her. It saves him because his shop, he's getting ready to lose his location because his landlord is, frankly, a piece of shit. And he marries her, inherits her money. Well, Nico, our other main character here, he is a French descent. He is kind of masquerading as this comte, I think is how you would say that, with his thick French accent. He was going to marry the lady. She was going to marry him. It was an arrangement, but he went out of town, and see her fall down the stairs was not scheduled. The nephew pushed her, so he missed out on his chance. Well, he comes and he's talking to Titus, and his original plan is to coax money out of Titus, and instead he ends up helping him to fake it in society. He helps him to fit in. And, a relationship blossoms. Again, I enjoyed this. I didn't absolutely love it. I don't know if I'll keep this one. I might take this to a local used bookstore, because I don't know that I'll reread it with it being so long. I also have a digital copy of it, so I enjoyed it. Don't know that I'll keep it, but I do recommend it if you like historical queer romances. It was fun. Oh, and some of the historical stuff in this was fan-freaking-tastic. I absolutely love the attention to detail that KJ Charles uses, especially when it comes to historical facts. And this one, our big focus is on color and paints and where they used to come from, what used to be poisons, how they were used in clothes. Absolutely fascinating stuff Really recommend it. I mean, kind of just for that. And then her French that Nico speaks, she had a French speaker help her with it, and the French was hysterical. If you translated it, it was fantastic. So, that was really good. I don't know where to put this. We'll use this chair. The next one that I read, so these two are both 5 stars. The first was Fabulous Bodies by Chuck Tingle. I love this. This is very short. All of Tingle's books usually are, and this is about an influencer. At this point, I don't remember Poppy. Poppy is an influencer by day, and by night she acquires, we'll say, deceased persons, and she sells the bodies, or she transports the bodies. And that's how she really makes most of her money, because she doesn't make quite enough from being an influencer, though she is somewhat of a decent-sized one. And she gets caught up transporting the body of one of her, like, rock idols that she loves. But not everything is quite as it seems, and she ends up on this, like, crazy sort of road trip with this being. I love this. Tingle always has something a little deeper than what you expect to say, and this one I think really takes a look at influencers, both what we traditionally think of as influencers, and he creates a kind of a monster that reflects that back at us. So an influencer in the form of almost like a vampire, but then you have the influencer in Poppy and you see how she views the world at the beginning of the novel. Everything is cold and detached. People are the audience. People are just bodies. It's just people that she has to take advantage of. And then by the end you see that that's not really, she learns, right? She learns that that's not the case. It's not just anonymous people on the other side of a screen, right? Absolutely adored this. I love what he's saying in this, because he does make the comment, social media has made people numb. At this point, I think everybody should be aware of that. And if you're not, you need to look into it. And he talks about that in a light way. He's never heavy-handed with his messaging, but it's there and it's obvious. So 5 stars. This was fun. This was gory and gross. Don't go into this if you have any problems with, like, cannibalism, gore, vomit, injuries, disfigurement. There's a moment of self-harm in this. There is a child in danger, but it's fine. Like, fantastic novel. Fantastic. I continue to auto-buy. I will always buy Chuck Tingle's horror novels. I love them. The other one was The Passing of the Dragon and Other Stories by Ken Liu. Short story collection. Fantastic collection. My favorites in this were the title story, so The Passing of the Dragon, which I know is, I think it's on Tor.com you can read it. It's somewhere on its own you can read. I loved that one. That one is about art and trying to convey what you see and feel through art, and oftentimes people won't get it until just someone gets it, and then occasionally this will happen again. 3 Views of a Parking Lot I really liked as well. That was a kind of over time view of what happens to a parking lot once humans are gone, and how the world recovers. Ice Wraith was really good, about finding and seeking things, seeing the possibility in things and others don't. I think it was Arc. Arc I really liked. If that's the one I'm thinking of, it's about a woman who lives far longer than she originally thought she would. I think the only one that I didn't absolutely love was 50 Things Every AI Working with Humans Should Know. Oh, and A Whisper of Blue, which was about tiny dragons. Fantastic stories in this collection. Again, like Chuck Tingle, Ken Liu's short stories are almost always going to be an auto-buy for me. I love his work. So this is a great short story collection to try with him. I think this is a good example of his work. Some of the stuff in this I think reflects really well on what I have read of the Dandelion Dynasty books. I haven't finished that series. So I think this would be a good place to try. Like, if you see this at your library, you want to give it a shot at the bookstore, this would be a great one to pick up. It comes out next month on the 8th. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And like I said, I think The Passing of the Dragon, the actual story itself, is online somewhere that you can read, because I was trying to mark it as read on Goodreads and I accidentally kept finding myself at the short stories page. Let's see, what else do I have to talk about? Okay, I don't have it, but I read my first 2027 book this past 2 weeks, and that was Galleria by Chuck Palahniuk. I have not read Chuck Palahniuk since I was in high school, so I didn't quite know what to expect. And in fact, after I read this, I went through and looked up information about Chuck Palahniuk, because I was like, who is this man? where does he come up with these wackadoodle ideas? Very interesting character. I don't know much about him besides what's in his Wikipedia page and the book I just read and vague memories of Fight Club, but he's interesting. So this is about a young man named Grunt who is trying to find his father and find out information about his father, who he is and where he came from. And we're also learning about another man through his father. You learn that pretty quick. You're learning about his father through serialized stories that his father had published in these, I don't know if you're as old as me, but these old science fiction fantasy magazines that you can still pick some of them up, I think. I know at least one of them closed doors during COVID, but I think there might be one other one still running. You can pick them up at places like Books A Million and Barnes & Noble, where magazines are sold. They do short stories in them. If you do digital stuff, Clark's World is an example of this. They used to publish these, and they would sell them at comic book shops and game shops and things like that. Well, his dad had these short stories serialized in those magazines, and he's kind of following the trail of those. And we're also getting the view of another gentleman and a few other people on the side. Now, these chapters are short, fast, and they're very pacey. Like, it's a short novel, and it keeps you moving through it quickly. I think I read this in 2 sittings, and it's off the wall. There is a lot of crazy stuff because the Grunt is the young man. Some of the other characters you're getting viewpoints from are from a colony out in space in the Pinwheel Galaxy, and they come back to Earth to harvest humans for their own means because they are to quote, the superior beings. And eventually they plan to come back to Earth to show us the error of our ways and fix us, right? And fix the Earth. That's, of course, not what happens. Things go awry. Grunt finds his dad, and you learn the truth. Now, the only reason I didn't give this a 5-star, because I thought it was really fun and wackadoodle, is because there is a very big twist at the end, and at maybe a third of the way through it, I was like, wouldn't it be funny if... And I was correct. So that's like the only reason why I didn't give this a 5, because I had a lot of fun reading it, but it is not going to be for everybody, and I cannot say that I widely recommend this one. If you like Chuck Palahniuk's work, you might really like it. It's very satirical. It makes a stab at like the science fiction and fantasy genres, and like I enjoyed it for what it was. I didn't go in expecting much. It's bloody, it's gory, there is some like humor that I know is not the popular type of humor on the internet these days, so there's that to keep in mind. But I had fun with it. I did. It was weird. Let's go ahead and jump into this month's reading and go to the one book that I gave 5 stars that I don't recommend to anybody. I might do a full review of this book in its own video. I'm thinking about it. But we'll talk about it. It's the Sixth Nick by Daniel Kraus. Don't read this. Unless you really, really like weird fiction, weird sci-fi. If you do not care about trigger warnings, because this book is just the trigger. It is a trigger. It is your trigger. It is everyone's trigger. If you have a trigger, something that upsets you, if you read something and you think, I didn't like that, that's going to give me nightmares. If you read something and you're like, I'm going to have a panic attack because that brings up bad memories, don't read this book because it's probably going to have that in it. I was going through the trigger warning list on Storygraph when I wrote my review for this. I checked almost every single one. I wish I'm joking. I checked almost every single one. My Storygraph, I think, is linked below. You can go look at it. All of the trigger warnings. Is it just, yes. So, this is about a 9-year-old girl. Great start, right? With that preamble out of the way. This is about a 9-year-old girl. I think you pronounce her name Cecilia? Whatever it is. I didn't read this on audio. I actually want to go back and read it on audio in like 6 months or so when it's a little less fresh. She is 9 years old. She is a special young girl who has these things called nicks implanted in her brain. Now, these nicks make her exceptionally smart. They allow her to read people's emotions. She can't quite read thoughts, but she can read intentions and emotions. It basically elevates her to a higher, like it enables elevated use of her brain. She has a name. She is a something, and I cannot pronounce it either because this name is based off of a Inuit language. but she is sent on a chore. There's a line of girls, they all get this implant and they only live till they're 11, but they're all given a chore, a task, a job. Most of them finish it, not all of them do, and when they finish it, their head is removed because their brain can't handle the nicks past age 11. So when they die, their head is removed, their nicks are removed and put into the next baby girl, right? It's terrible. It's awful. But moving on. She has given a chore. She needs to go to this planet where these people from Alabama were sent after they contracted a disease that no one could cure. And that disease, I think, was called woollisis or something like that, where they grew hair in their bodies that slowly choked and killed them. Well, to quarantine them, the government walled off this area in Alabama, loaded all these people up in a spaceship, and sent them to this faraway planet and said, good luck. Well, they didn't expect them to live, but they did. So, Cecilia and her crew of 4, yes, counting herself, are sent in this ship, which I'll get back to these Alabama, it was either Kansas or Alabama, to these southern people to find out how they survived and to see if how they survived can be brought back to Earth to benefit the tri-world, the Earth and its beings. Okay, now the ship. The ship is called the Sickness, and this ship is grown in a lab from the DNA of the crew. These ships that are grown in the labs, they're a special kind of ship. They're made of flesh, and they take certain forms based on the DNA and the personalities of the crew, right? Well, with the title of The Sickness, I think you can assume what's going on with this one. It's weird, it's gross, it's disgusting. I'm not going to dwell on it too much because the more I talk about this, the more I think maybe I do need to do a full video, but I'm going to just leave you with the fact that the cockpit of this ship is made out of tongues. Think of a flower bud. It's just tongues, okay? I don't know what this was. It's tongues. Gross. There are 4 people on the ship. There is Cecilia. There is someone called a murder. It is a person who has sworn themselves to the murder tenet in that anyone who does not benefit mankind needs to be removed. There is the captain who's off. He's a special little man. There is another man, the medic, who is being held together with a suit and his body is being stitched back together with chemicals and he is addicted to peyote. And there is a woman named Jane who is basically made up of modifications and a cocktail of chemicals that allow her to be anything she wants to be or anyone she wants to be. And she's completely fake, basically. She's a nice person. They're all sent to this planet. And it was crazy. I'm not going to tell you anything else. I'm going to tell you every trigger warning exists in this, is for this book, right? Okay? I'm going to tell you I gave it 5 stars. And I'm going to tell you I should not have given it 5 stars because there's stuff in here that upset me. But I kept reading it. And I kept reading it because I was like, I need to know what's happening. It's grotesque. It's over the top. I saw several DNF reviews of people like, this is just, he just piled everything in here just for shock. And you know what? I think you're right. But also it worked, right? He made it work in a way that I don't understand and I don't know if I fully appreciate, but man, it worked and it worked for me. And I went out and found a used copy and bought it because what? I will be rereading this, just to see what I missed. But yeah, every trigger warning, all of them, every last one, even animal death. You wouldn't think it, being in space and stuff, but there you go. Moving on. I think I'll talk more about that in a full video, maybe with spoilers. The rest of what I read was fairly chill, okay? I went for chill stuff after that, because as you can tell, that was a bit much. So let me grab, I will say I have 1 3-star, I'm just going to touch on it briefly, and that was The Burn Line by Jonathan Sims. I picked it up because Camp NetGalley was going on. If you do it every year, you get a little badge on your profile. So that was my Camp NetGalley book pick because it was like a horror book and there wasn't anything else that really interests me that I hadn't already read. And I do kind of wish I had just reread Witch Hat Atelier, Volume 1. I gave Burn Line 3 stars. It was supposed to be about this ancient horror that was coming out of the London Tube underground. And for someone who's never been on a subway or in a tube, I found this very underwhelming. It was fine. I think the problem that I had was just simply that he made the chapters so quick and pacey and alternating from so many viewpoints, and the way he wrote them, we didn't get any actual connection with the characters, so I didn't really care. So I can't say that I recommend it. If you like a horror thriller where you don't want to know the characters, you're just there for the experience, it might work for you. And not so much for me. Okay, so this stack here is everything I've read in the past, like, week and a half. I told you, I have been doing nothing but reading. The most recent thing I finished this morning, I read this in 2 hours. I don't know how, but the writing on this was incredibly just bingeable. And that is She's a Doll by Barbara Truelove. I got this in my Aardvark box on Friday, and I've already read it. So, like, 2 hours. No joke. I wish I was kidding. We laid down to go to bed last night at 10:30, 10:45, 11. And at 12, I think around 12, maybe, I closed it. And then this morning, it took me, I was at like 85% at that point. And then this morning, I finished it while I had my coffee. This is about a young woman who is killed by a young man. And instead of dying, she tethers herself to a doll, and it is about her as a haunted doll trying to get revenge on him. It's one of those good for you female rage kinds of stories. There is a young woman with a hearing aid who manages to hear her, and because the hearing aid picks up her voice, right? Even though she isn't a doll, it somehow picks up her voice. It's a horror book. Don't ask for explanations that make sense. This would make a fantastic movie. I think it really would. And I think that I thought of something. Oh, I thought the author did a fantastic job with the idea of how time affects the dead and ghosts. Sometimes time moves super freaking fast for the main character, Lucy. Sometimes it moves really molasses. Things stand still slow. And she can kind of control it, but sometimes she can't. And so there were times where she would experience some news or something, or she would relax and let go, and time would just go past, and like she'd be out for a week. So it's like interesting, right? When you think about how maybe ghosts don't experience time the same way. It was fascinating. I thought it was cool. It was a neat gimmick. And I did really like this. I am going to keep it because I think I'm going to reread it in physical form because I read the digital edition. I had an e-arc of it. I think this would be fun to reread slowly and annotate. So I do recommend this. If you want to read like a haunted doll, good for her kind of story, this is really, really fun and worth reading. Another kind of good for her, but a little heavier and of course longer. I caught up on Lore Olympus. This is volume 9 and 10. Volume 11, which I think is the final volume, comes out in October. I am very excited about that. I don't know why my volume 10 is a hardcover. I have been buying the paperbacks of these. They're stacked up there since volume 1. Yet somehow, I think what happened was the hardback was a lot cheaper than the paperback, and I was like, okay, fine. Usually it's the paperback that's cheaper, but here we are. So I went ahead and got the pre-order for the hardcover for the last one, just so the last two match. But yes, caught up with this series. This is after everything has happened. The truth has come out about what Apollo did to Persephone. And these two volumes in particular take place after her punishment for her crimes. And we're seeing the ultimate end of what's going to happen with Apollo and Zeus and everyone. And I'm really excited for the last one because I can't stand Apollo. And I really want him to get his comeuppance. I can't say a lot about this series. I'll tell you, this is a retelling of the Hades and Persephone myth. This is Hades and this is Persephone. Here's a better picture of them on this cover. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's based on the webtoon, so you can read this online if you would rather not buy physical copies. And I do really recommend if you like romance, manga, or graphic novels. I really love Lore Olympus. I think it's beautiful. I love the story. It's a win for me all across the board. We're almost done. We're at 25 minutes. I'm trying to move quickly. We have 2 left. So my audiobook for this past week, I mowed and did a few things, was The First Step by Tao Wong. This is the first book in the 1,000 Li series. This is a progression fantasy about Long Wu-ying. He's a young man who thinks he's destined for nothing more than to be a farmer. He's a farmer's son. And then the army comes and forcibly recruits a new batch of young men from the village, and he is one of them. He is injured on his way to the main camp, And while in the medic's tent or right outside of it during a battle, he sees something and ends up saving a lot of people. And because of this, he is offered a spot with the cultivators. He didn't think he would ever have the chance to become a cultivator. This is a wuxia, I think that's how you say it. I can never say it right, novel. So it's like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon sort of thing, right? They have martial arts abilities and stuff. He's offered a position at this cultivation sect where he can learn to be like that. So he takes it, and this is about his first span of time there when he is in the outer sect, leading up to an ending where he to see if he becomes part of the inner sect, part of the like interior order. And it was just really fun. I love a competent main character. I love a level-headed main character. I really don't like stubborn and like foolhardy characters. I know those are very common, especially in things like romantasy and stuff. I don't care for that. I'm a little too level-headed. I tend to think things through to the point of not doing them. So I like to see that in other characters, and that's what this is. This is the first book in a 12 book series. There's a lot of them. Okay. I am currently listening to the second one. So I'll definitely have to report back on that. And this was indie published like 10 years ago. This whole series is completed. This was one of the first progression fantasies that really hit it big. And Tao Wong still independently publishes his works. I'm actually reading one of his new cooking series right now on my Kindle. And yeah, it's really fun and easy. The writing is super quick to fly through. If you like progression fantasy or you want to try it out, I think this would be a great place to start. A lot of authors really like it. I know Travis Baldree and Matt Denman blurbed it, and I have also seen them recommend it on forums. So like there's that. But yeah, it was very fun. The audiobook was really good. I recommend it. Travis Baldree actually does the audiobook on that. So there's that. If you have a problem with the male gaze, though, you're going to have a problem with that. He's occasionally talks about seeing a female cultivator and how lovely her curves are and stuff. And I know people don't like that. I tend to just ignore it. But if you're going to be bothered by that, you might want to skip it. But I really liked that. And I am continuing the series. And finally, a series that I am caught up on. Sea of Charms by Sarah Beth Durst. This is a cozy fantasy series I adore. This one got a 5-star, and I lied. I thought I had an e-arc of this. I did not, but I do now have an e-arc of The Magical Cheese Emporium, which is the 4th book in this series, and it comes out in January? I say hesitantly, I think. I don't know that the cover is out. If it is, I'll try and throw it up here. You see the Cheese Emporium in this one. This one just came out last week, the week before last. Fantastic. If you've read The Spell Shop or the Enchanted Greenhouse, this is about Mirren, the woman who sails in the boat the Silver. In The Spell Shop, she comes to the bay with her sea dragon towards the end, and I think she's there in that book briefly. If not, I may be just crossing wires. But in the second book, she's very much in the second book. She is the one that transported our main character for the head librarian to the island of Bede. And she comes up several times because she brings them things and... Excuse you. She brings them things and she's an integral part, and we find out her story here. She is hurt at the beginning of the novel. We find out she was hurt very deeply by a man she thought she was in love with, when in fact he was just using her. And now she is a supply runner. She sails between the islands and she delivers supplies and mail and things. And she's working very hard to pay off a debt for her parents because they enabled her to have that life. And we see a little bit of an overlap between this one and the Enchanted Greenhouse. In the Enchanted Greenhouse, one of the sentient plants, asks to become a crew member on her ship, and we see that scene from her eyes. And I absolutely loved that little wax myrtle. I would fight for that little wax myrtle. She also has a sea serpent friend named Perrin. Doesn't speak English, but they talk almost in a way. They converse. And she ends up rescuing a composer named Dax. And it is their story. They become like a little crew, a little family. And it's just so delightful. The thing I love most about these books, besides like the coziness, the stories and stuff, is the world. The Crescent Isles are just also different and varied. They go to an isle towards the end of this one that's covered in dragons and dragon keepers, and I swear if we don't get a dragon keeper book, I'm going to riot. But they also go to an island with the cheese shop, and you find out that The people who run the cheese shop make the cheese from mythical creatures, including unicorns. I don't know how that works, but I absolutely love that. I like it. Listen, that's one of my favorite things is when an author or a creator takes an established myth and does something weird with it, like cheese from unicorns. My players in Dungeons and Dragons in my games that I run hate me because my unicorns are basically rats. Like, they are beautiful, majestic unicorns, but they are they infest places, right? And they eat trash and feces and stuff. So like I like it when people do things different. And so I already read a few pages of the Magical Cheese Emporium. I haven't gotten very far, but I actually planned on reading that next as my e-arc. So that is everything that I've read. Real quickly, I'll show you what I am reading. As I mentioned, I'm a few pages into the Magical Cheese Emporium, loving it. I am halfway through the new Rooster Fighter Volume 10, loving it. I love this series. This is for people who like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Dragon Ball Z, kind of smushed together, but the main characters are chickens. And an owl right now. There's an owl and a demon, but he's a good guy. We love him. We love him. And then my physical read, because I'm trying to read things as I get them. My husband bought me a copy of John Dies at the End. I really enjoy Jason Pargill's content on Instagram, and I have the e-arc of the third book in this series. There are no giant crabs in this novel to read. I've heard there's no giant crabs in that novel. Don't ask me where I heard that. So I'm excited to try this out. I know this is like kind of a cult classic, and I have seen the movie for this, but it was many moons ago, and I don't recall much about it. So I might actually rewatch the movie once I've read this. I think he's got several books, but I think there's only 2 books in this series, and I'm pretty sure I could read them pretty quickly. So that's, I think, what I'm gonna do. But yes, that is everything that I've read and that I am reading. Ooh, sorry. It's hot. This is 33 minutes on my end. I promise I'll try to edit it down, but I'm pretty good at just talking at you and not having to cut much. We'll see. Thanks so much for watching if you made it to the end. Let me know what you're reading, what you have read. If you're interested in any of these things, like I said, I recommend almost all of them, maybe not the 6th, Nick. Remember, 5 stars, but I don't recommend it. And that's it. That's everything I have. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.